Shalom, everybody. I was looking into this Zedekah and Zedek, and turns out I may have hit something pretty big. So let me just get to it. So the modern Hebraic understanding for a Zedek and Zedekah is different than how we should understand it today. Um, how it's still understood by most Yehudim is incomplete. I'm going to explain why. So, so when I defined it earlier, it really isn't gracious acts. I think it's more graciousness, not the acts itself. I mean, this is the modern Hebrew understanding. Okay. I have to. This is a big caveat here. This is according to modern rabbinic uh, Judeo understanding. So, so I'm going to say modern rabbinic Judeo definition, and then Zedekah, and this is the moral, or I should say, modern rabbinic Judeo definition. This is not the absolute definition. I think that's the I found. It's not complete. When Yeshua HaMashiach said, I did not come to abolish the law, I came to fulfill it. And even when it comes to words like Zedek, Zedekah, he actually fulfilled that too, because for the understanding to remain partial is is to say that Yeshua did not fulfill this aspect of tzedakah. So we're going to look. Yeah, again the difference, the great divide, is such a interesting thing. I'm just going to say that Yeshua HaMashiach came to complete. He completed the meaning of this actually. Excuse me. So I'm going to say. Excuse me. Didn't mean to do that. Um, so this is where we start to see a divergence. So I'm going to say. So we're going to get into the completion. We're going to get into not rabbinic Judeo definition, but the complete um, messianic. I'll just say messianic because it's based on Yeshua. Christian. I hate to say Christian because it doesn't. I'm not excluding Jews. It's just saying that Christianity based on being a branch of Judaism. It's just an offshoot of what really was just seen as an offshoot of Judaism, whereas today it's not seen that way. It's seen as like antagonistic towards it, and that's just not the case in reality, like in the spiritual reality. But yeah, that's the reality that it is for the most part. Majority of Christian life, Christian spiritual understanding. So I guess spiritual new covenant. I'll say new covenant, the heart of flesh. Yeah, come on. Old covenant, the old covenant. I don't mean like it's been done away. It's just the older covenant, heart of stone. So Arnold. Okay, this is where everything diverges from this point. So this is where this presentation really coming together was before just a big cacophony. It's a big mess of a bunch of ideas, but now we're like, okay, there's something going on here, and we got to take a look at what this means. Excuse me. So let's start from the top. Just see where I am in the calendar here. Okay, I'm at 5 minutes. All right. So Shabbat Shalom. When it's Shabbat, uh, I have no interesting introduction for you to segue into the word. Just going to dive into the word. So today, this afternoon, I want to look into a new Hebrew word called Zedek. And the modern rabbinic Judeo definition of the word Zedek, it has many meanings, but primarily justice, righteousness, um, justice and righteousness. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Those are the main definitions. And then looking at another word, Zedekah. Okay, why am I talking about these two things? You'll find out. The modern rabbinic Judeo definition of Zedekah is moral obligation to do good works. It connotes giving material support to those in need, and now this is getting to a little bit of the spiritual, but it means more than just legal correctness, being legalistic. But I think that's the original understanding about it, is that it is very legalistic. It's by the book, but also refers and relates to covenant faithfulness. So that's touching into the spiritual a little bit. Much like the previous word we looked at, Zedek chesed, that it has relates to that. Move that to right. Just rearrange that phrase a little, that sentence. But we looked at previous word we looked at chesed, it also refers and relates to covenant faithfulness. Zedekah can also mean an act of righteousness that comes from a duty to help others in need. Again, very focus on obligation. What you're obligated to do. It is sometimes understood as charity, but the root word, again, zedek, means justice or fairness rather than philanthropy or generosity. It means doing the right thing and demonstrating zedek, justice and fairness in your life. So this is, again, very much Hebrew. Not Hebrew, I mean rabbinic Judaism. On that. So I need to stress that. That is an important aspect of what I'm talking about. It's the modern rabbinic Judeo definition. I'm not trying to stigmatize it, I'm only just trying to clarify it. So Yah commands us through his Torah, for example, to give a tithe to the poor. And now that is our duty. Yes, it's an obligation. But from his perspective, he's not so much obligated to do anything for us. He is not obligated to do anything. To do anything for us. Really isn't. God does things for us anyway. He does things for us anyway because he's merciful. Not out of obligation. So that's, I think you can see the spiritual parallel there. So Yah will do things for us because of his name's sake. He does things for us because he's merciful, gracious, and kind. So I'm going to look at righteousness and obedience now. So righteousness, why am I talking about this? Well, righteousness is the one of the definitions of Zedek. So Zedek also means righteousness, as I said. Many interchange Zedek with so many things, but essentially, um, Zedek means righteousness, refers to moral behavior that conforms to God's Torah. Yah's Torah. For example, the psalmist says, "Judge me, O Yah." I'm going to have to fact check this tomorrow. Asking God to evaluate him according to his faithful obedience to the Torah. And Yeshua uses the term in Matthew. He says, to do righteousness means to obey the commandments. So he does stress obedience, but to disobey, to sin means to disobey. So to be righteous means to obey the Torah. And Yeshua acknowledged that they were righteous. Very righteous. He said that uh, he didn't say they weren't. He says you have to exceed their righteousness. So they have some kind of righteousness, but it isn't the right kind. He's just saying, they were more outwardly righteous. And again, I'm going to stress this is the modern rabbinic Judeo definition by modern rabbinic Judeo standards. So that, they did meet that. See, so they were righteous in that standard, but Yeshua's standard is different. I need to qualify that higher. You know, like it says, as your ways, as I am, as the heaven above the earth, so are my ways. My standards are above yours. So I think that's an important point here. It's not Yeshua wasn't saying, obey the law just according to Judeo rabbinic, standards, definitions, just do it because you're obligated to. No, he's saying he's saying you got to go to the spirit of it. You can't just do the bare minimum. You can't just do according to, like, do not commit adultery. So then there's the there's the not loopholes. There's a potential for abusing this and saying, okay, I'm not committing adultery, but if I look at a woman, I'm like looking up her skirt, like I'm not doing anything, I'm just looking. No, you're still committing adultery in your heart. So I think that's where Yeshua really completed the law. Um, he Yes, he made the law. I wouldn't say it's more burdensome. He just made us more accountable. Like he's just more real. He wasn't uh, giving us leeway to just break the law spiritually. You know what I mean? So I think that's what it is. Yeshua's standard is different and it's higher. He didn't allow for loopholes. Okay, in the era of Second Temple Judaism, again, the issue is not whether you are to keep or not obey the Torah, whether you are whether or not you are to keep the law or obey the Torah. That wasn't the question. That was not the question at all. Everyone knew you should keep the law. That is a question today in mainstream Christianity. The Christians need to keep the holy days. So actually, I should clarify what I was saying that Yeshua's standard is higher. So, for example, I'll just say adultery and hate and murder. And be that. I mean, according to Jewish understanding, this is not against the law. Jewish standards are Jewish examples are not against the law. They are technically not breaking the Torah. And see that their understanding was incomplete because he completed the law. That's why Moses said, when he comes, you have to listen to him. You have to. It's not just something. Oh, he's going to teach you little things. He's going to teach you how to keep the Torah more perfectly. This is why Moses said. This is why Moses said, when he comes, you must listen to him because he will teach you the law perfectly. Basically, I mean, I'm just paraphrasing, but so keep and live more practically. Like it's real life. It's not something like, okay, I did this for you and just remember it. No, it's like this has an impact on how you live. This will affect. It affects everything about your life, the way you think, uh, speak, act, everything, just everything, all encompassing. It's very disingenuous for them to just go, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. You broke the law. No, he actually he completed the law. He really completed the law. He really completed the law. He didn't break the law at all. He made the law more. He magnified it. He didn't break the law. wrongly accused him. He certainly magnified it and gave understanding. He really blessed the law because the law was only mostly superficial, wasn't to the heart. To the heart of the matter, the spirit of the law. He really completed the law. So in the era of Second Temple Judaism, the issue was not whether you're ready to keep the law or obey it. That wasn't the question. That seems to be the question today. Do Christians have to keep, food laws, etc.? The real question is, do you keep the laws of God correctly? Um, so this should be the question both Jews and Christians should ask themselves. As I was saying, Yeshua came to complete the law, so he came to correct the heart and attitude, uh, which precedes correct actions. So I think that's what he came to correct. Yeshua wanted what he wanted, but he helped to point out correct heart and attitude is important. The importance. So one is more easily correctable and the other not so. So if when the heart is right, there's less of a fight. But when the heart is wrong, you're stubborn as a bong. Actually, it doesn't rhyme, but what rhymes with wrong? When the heart is okay, when the heart is right, there's less of a fight. So your motivation is good and you're doing something wrong, but it's not easy. It's not going to be as difficult to correct that because they're going to be motivated to change. But if the heart is at fault, then you're stubborn as a as a galt. I don't know what rhymes with fault. As a balt. No. Um, as a wall. No, is that stubborn a brick wall? If you're stubborn to a fault, then if your heart is wrong, no. Oh man, if when the heart is bad, you're just gonna be stubborn as a crad, pad, mad. No. Oh boy, I wanted this to rhyme. I'm just really particular that way. Okay, so when the heart is right, there's less of a fight. When the heart is when the heart is foolhardy. No, when the heart is stone. When the heart is set on wrong. No, okay, hold on. When your heart is right, so your motivation is good, it's easy to correct. But if you're already set on wrong, if the heart has made up his mind, it's gonna be stubborn. If the heart is set in stone, it's gonna be hard as a bone. No. If the heart oh man, let me just work backwards, okay? So if the heart is thinking something else, it's already said, like I'm right, the heart thinks it's right, then um if you think you're right, you're not gonna wanna change. It's gonna be more difficult. It's gonna be like cement. So I'm gonna say when the heart is bent, it's stubborn as cement. Okay, that works. When the heart is bent, and the heart is already, um, you know, it's biased towards where it's going. It's already bent in one direction. Then it's gonna be stubborn as it's gonna be stubborn as cement. It's gonna be hard as cement. When the heart is already bent, it's going to be hard to cement. Then they're hard to cement. It will be as hard to change. It's gonna be hard to change because it is harder. It is harder naturally for one to surrender themselves in their hearts, to give up your will, right? To give up what you want, to give up your will and desire, your trust, not on yourself, your trust on God and themselves. It's harder to commit because they trust themselves so much. They've been taught believe in yourself. It's harder for one to surrender themselves, to give up their wills and desires because they believe in themselves rather than God. They believe in themselves. Believe in themselves. Their belief in themselves is greater than their belief in God, the Almighty. Why do you say the Almighty? That makes sense, right? The Almighty. Now we're going to get to a, excuse me. I need water. Is there water there? I have my water here. Okay, I don't have my water, so I'm just going to have to go dry mouth, dry throat. So, Robert. Oh man, this is going to be horrible. Modern rabbinic Judeo definition. So the old covenant, heart of stone, carnal. We're going to look, compare and contrast. It's going to be a shift that's going to take place now. We're going to see the complete messianic Christian spiritual new covenant, heart of flesh, spirit. So I'm going to continue into this. That's what I'm really doing here is contrasting these because I thought it was just looking at this from a Hebraic perspective. Actually, no, it's not that. It's looking at how Yeshua affected this. He permanently changed this. Where does this really take a shift? I would say um, right here. So the shift. So the shift begins here. Okay. The shift happens right there. Right when Yeshua comes into this discussion, Hamashiach. So, like Joshua, the anointed one, the Qumran Jews rejected the Pharisaic interpretation of the Torah. So um, they were kind of along the lines. Maybe they were followers of Yeshua Hamashiach. I don't know, but they despised the Pharisees. They called them in Hebrew doshe ha chalakot, seekers after the smooth thing. So this is a wordplay on the Hebrew doshe ha halachot, seekers of the ways to walk. So in Hebrew, the word ha halakha means the way to walk. But yeah, it refers to the practice of applying the Torah to daily life. But the word assigned to compromising practices, ha ha ha, sounds very similar on purpose. So that's compromising. It's not the way to walk. It's not going the right way. It's just you're. It seems like you're going the right way, but you're just really um, just it looks like it, but internally it's not. So you're polishing it, just making it. It's all outward. So it sounds similar on purpose. This play on words. It refers to something being polished up and smoothed over, superficial righteousness. So I think we can see this difference. This we can see this disparity going on where Yeshua was saying, okay, don't be like the Pharisees, exceed their righteousness. It can't just be outward. It can't just be, look at me, I'm special and I'm good. No, it's got to be anonymous. It's got to be, you got to do it generously from the heart, cheerful giver, and you got to do it um, in a way that it'll benefit this person long term. You're not just doing it just like as a stopgap solution. Or you're doing it in order to help them be better, to improve them in a long term, hopefully permanent way, or more long term way. So the Pharisees' practices were polished up and smoothed over. It appeared nice on the outside, but in the inside was filled with dead men's bones. So, they did it out of public approval. So not all the Jews agreed what it meant to be righteous in that era. Actually, even now, you can see that even today. Um, at the time of Christ Jesus, or Yeshua, or Anointed One, Joshua. Even today, to be honest. So his followers, his disciples, his Talmudim in Hebrew, exceeded the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, not by believing in just obligating and being obligated, um, but by um, not by obligation, doing good works out of obligation. Which we will see. I'm just going to say the Talmudim exceeded the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, not by doing good out of obligation, but um, but by the but by following the Messiah's interpretive, or I should say, authoritative interpretation of the Torah. The words that he himself instructed to Moses. The words that he, the Word, instructed to Moses. Yeah, the words that he, the Word, not frozen anymore. So can this be moved to another section? So the psalmist says, "We will live our lives in conformity to the Torah. Yah shall judge the people. Judge me according to my Zadik, not merely what we think or feel or believe, but is completed by what we do. We should be doing it out of obligation, but yes, sometimes we forget parts of the Torah. Okay, this is kind of long-winded. I don't know what he's is actually saying what I think it is. So we do the best we can through His Holy Spirit, and if we do so, okay, this sounds like really opinion. Yeah, I might have to just look this up first before I remove it. I don't know if I'm going to remove it, but let's just first see. Am I justified to remove it? If not, if I'm not, then I'll keep it. But otherwise, this could be removed altogether. It's taking a while though. I'm just listening to a video.
Number one is the power struggle within the CCP. It is widely known that Liu Qing or Jian Liu, the president of DD, is the daughter of Liu Chuanzhi, who is the founder. Let's show a picture of Liu Chuanzhi. Yes, this is Liu Chuanzhi. He's the founder of Lenovo company.
Whoa.
Let's show pictures. Yes, this is the picture of Lenovo. It has a very strong military background. Also, Liu Chuanzi has a good relationship with Alibaba's Jack Ma, and
Wow.
is also one of the founders of Wuhan University. That's your picture 8, yes. This university was forced to change its name a while ago when Alibaba was being cracked down and Ant Group's IPO was pulled. DD's shareholders include many national level giants such as Bank of Communications, China Commercial Bank, Poly Capital, China Life, China International Trust Investment Corporation, and Ping An Insurance, etc. Each of which has one or more powerful red families behind it. In addition, DD also has investment from Huoyu Capital, Sequoia Capital, Hill capital was founded by former CCP head Jiang Zemin's grandson Jiang Zhicheng. In other words, DD is basically a huge platform supported by the CCP's
Hmm.
heavyweight red families in conjunction with international capital giants, with Liu Qing as a front person. Hong Kong businessman Elmer Yuan said to Chinese language media Beijing Times that Xi Jinping is cracking down on DD and Ant Group to deal with Jiang Zemin's faction that is behind DD and Ant Group.
What in the world? Sounds like a civil war. Okay. I don't know what the heck is going on here. I'm like, okay, this is a Chinese stock, but why are they attacking their own? But whatever. I don't know. Listen to that later. So anyway, it did load eventually. So it says, Yah shall judge the nations. Judge me, O Yah, according to my righteousness, according to my innocence that is in me. Um, he shall direct the righteous, O, Sir, o Yah, or Elohim, that search the heart and reins. So even King David was saying, upright in heart. It's not just being righteous outwardly, it's being upright in your heart. So he judges people, not just what they do on the outside, it's what they're also, uh, what is happening inside. So, I mean, with Cain, I've definitely, I can sense that it's not just something he did on the outside that was wrong. It was really an internal thing that he was judging and determining, this is not pleasing. What is going on in your heart? Not just what is lacking physically because he didn't meet those requirements, but more significant, much bigger than that is he didn't even meet the internal requirements as, in terms of what was going on. Excuse me. What was happening between himself and his brother, and that was just, yeah, that was he was lacking there. So I'm gonna remove this. This really, not that it's bad. It's just doesn't really add to the presentation. It's just getting into some other topic. I mean, yeah, King David was definitely a person who I think he did understand that the law is not just doing things outwardly. He was someone who I think he realized after he had sinned, it's not just just trying to get away with what you can with the law. You find loopholes in it and try to neutralize your sin and try to hide everything. But God searches the heart, and He will repay you and also have mercy on you based on what's in your heart and what you also do on the outside. So he had paid the price physically on the outside when the child died, but he also had to make amends by repenting in his heart. Because if he didn't, I think he would have been taken out. But his life was spared because Yah knew he would repent. And when God showed him that much mercy, when Elohim showed him a lot of mercy, he was then very much a changed man, and he was able to feel just the immensity of the mercy shown to him. In Psalm 51, it's pretty much an embodiment of love of God or the forgiveness of Yah can do to a person and really affect them so deeply that um, they feel the guilt, but they also know that that guilt isn't going to consume them. It's still hopeful despite all those feelings going on. So I'm going to delete this part. It's really not helping the presentation. So yeah, I do believe David understood that. It's just my opinion. I'm not going to put that in the presentation, but I do believe he saw things the way Yeshua did, which kind of makes sense since Yeshua is the son of David in a way. I mean, he is technically biologically. So there's a big contrast between how Jewish and Christian people see righteousness. The focus from Hebraic mindset again is placed on what you do and why you do it, on what you do and why you do it. You do it. when understood through actions, and ideally, the action of caring for the poor reveals both, what you believe and how you think. But I don't think that's the case in just going by the traditional way. One of the earliest references to this word righteousness is found in Genesis 18:19, where it speaks of Abraham saying a man whose faithfulness was credited to him as righteousness, as Zedekah, or as Zedek. I guess it's Zedekah, yeah. It wasn't by Abraham just thinking or feeling something, but he did obey him, expressed his faith um, by a Zedekah. So again, that's important. I don't think this helps the point that I'm trying to put here, but I might have to move this. Um, so I'll move this to the beginning where I talk about Zedekah is something you do. Not that that's wrong, it is correct, but that's incomplete. It's only a partial understanding. So that's why it's so important to understand the complete thing. So I might just use that as an introduction. Just say one of the early examples. So I'll say Shabbat Shalom. One of the earliest references to this word of righteousness in scriptures is Genesis 18:19. So I might start with that because it's kind of like, oh, okay, righteousness. All right, sure, go ahead. So going ahead here. So going beyond, an important distinction to make regarding the fruit of the Spirit, the way that humans would express these fruits of the Spirit, how we would embody or practice these fruits is very different than how God would do them, how God does it. That is why they're called the fruit of the world. If we have worldly joy or peace, it's the fruit of the world. That's why we. That's why they are. No, they are called. They are. They are really fruit of the world. They should be called. Should be called fruit of the world. Human fruit of the Spirit. How we would embody or practice these fruits is different than how God would do it. It's not the same as the fruit of the Spirit of joy and peace and righteousness. Random acts of kindness, photo ops, getting praise of people, public displays. These should be called fruit of the world. These are fruit of the world. So, in regards to good works, there's a ladder of Maimonides. I think that gets closer to what Yeshua was kind of saying, that the importance, I have to look up when was Maimonides. I think he was after Yeshua, I think. Giving that is anonymous, generous, cheerful giver, and helping those in need to become self sufficient. Who routinely practice Zedek is called a Zadik, and followers of Christ are actually known as Zadikit because they demonstrate their love by giving to others. And I think that's really what we should be known by. That's what Christ said. Christ Jesus said, "They will know you by because you have love for one another." So that's scriptural. In the writings of the Apostle Paul, righteousness is also an end times gift of the Spirit. So it really is. It is spiritual. So again, stressing it is spiritual first and outward. That it's spiritual first. It is both. It is both spiritual and outward. Both spiritual and outward. It's not one or the other. I mean, can be, but it is both spiritual and outward physical. Zadik goes beyond the obligation to perform zedekah as a mere duty, but instead practices and motivated. Wait, Zadik goes beyond the obligation to perform zedekah as a mere duty, but instead practices motivated by goes beyond the obligation to perform zedekah as a mere duty, but instead it motivated by benevolent love. It says God loves a cheerful giver. Yeah, really is from the heart. I'm just gonna say it's from the heart, from the heart, sincerity, from the sincere heart. The greatest act of tzedakah in all human history was Yeshua giving his life, and it's not so much an obligation. Yeah, he should have done it, but he didn't have to do it. He said, "No one forces me." Right? He did it. He laid his life on his own accord. He decided to. Um, he was not obligated to. He did so because he wanted to, because he because he loved us, his Father. He showed his love for his Father through the obedience, and he showed his love for us through the sacrifice. So, anyway, it is written, those who trust in him are also justified as Zadikim, as righteous ones, since the Zadik shall live by faith. So the righteous. And we know that uh, one of the most famous areas of scripture of this word, people don't really know it, but Jesus Christ is of the priesthood of Melchizedek, king of righteousness. So that's a prime example of just how important this word is, how important this word is. It is a title associated with Jesus Christ. Okay, so from the internet, there's this little spiel. I'm going to read it. I found it really interesting. So, a righteous man should empathize with the poor in his suffering, recognizing that he, the righteous, is only able to give because God has given him. If the one who seeks to be righteous gives with an angry and scornful face, then he loses his merit. And this is from a messianic, I'm going to say a messianic site. We're, after all, only custodians of the resources that our Father has given us. Remove compassionate, he is compassionate, but it just doesn't flow well. So I'm just going to remove that just so it flows better. We are only stewards of the lives we have, the bodies we have. We are accountable for every opportunity that God puts in front of us, whether where we have an opportunity, um, for every opportunity God puts in front of us. We have the opportunity to do good, uh, nothing at all, or to do evil. The person approaches for help is therefore perhaps unknowingly a divine messenger sent to remind us of one of our purposes for being, that is, to reflect the internal image or character of our God by giving, serving, and loving one another. So I think can understand. I think I hope you can understand by now. Is it starting to make sense? difference between the rabbinic Hebrew, Hebraic, you know, um, approach to it, I guess, versus the messianic completion of this trait, to the incomplete, really the incomplete, partial, incomplete ending of Zedek and Zadik and all that. Basically Zedek. So that's my own thought there. So yeah, I originally was just going to talk about this and just organize it, but now I'm actually seeing there's actually a stark difference between um, what is known in the traditional rabbinic teaching of this concept and what Yeshua came to actually reveal. That it's not just doing the law, or in this instance doing good works out of obligation. You got to do it. You must do it. No, you're doing it because you really want to. It's really in your heart, and it's what drives you. It's your good pleasure to do it. God does not want you to do it traditional way where you're making a big show of it, and you're definitely not anonymous. You're announcing it. You're not giving generously. You're just giving the minimum, but you're making it seem like it's a lot. And thirdly, you're not giving something that'll really help this person. You're just doing it out of your own self worth. Like you're pumping yourself up instead of really giving them the help they need. It's just you're helping them, but it's not really the best help you can give. If that makes sense. Like there's a better way to help them, but you rather just do a superficial way rather than really help them and help them to be independent, not independent, but you know what I mean, like become more able to better themselves and really get the help they need. So Matthew 5:20, uh, unless your righteousness exceeds the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, will by no means enter the kingdom of heaven. So what does he mean by righteousness? Yeshua in the Greek dikaiosune, righteousness corresponds to the Hebrew zedekah, yeah, which I believe responds to the fruit of the Spirit known as goodness. So that's really what I wanted to show you. This is a fruit of the Spirit. And to be able to give hope to someone in a situation like homelessness really does a great deal of good, not only in God's eyes, but even in our own hearts. It affects us, it changes us. So, what am I saying? To be able to give hope, so to do good works. Okay, so I wanted to reveal that towards the end. So I'm going to get the fruit of the Spirit and move it to the end because I felt that was a little bit of a spoiler in the middle. I didn't want to ruin it that way. So I'm going to say, yeah, an important distinction. Okay. And then the conclusion is, so I'm going to reread this last part. It says, so Matthew 5:20, lest your righteousness exceeds the righteousness of the freaks, the freaks, scribes and Pharisees. I got freaks, Pharisees and Greeks, I guess. Yeah, so we can see that actually that word for righteousness is dikaiosune, but when you kind of reverse translate that, I'll just say, um, when you reverse translate it, reverse translate it from Greek to Hebrew, you get zedek, which I believe corresponds to the fruit of the Spirit known as goodness. distinction to make regarding the fruit of the spirit. The way humans would express these fruits of the spirit, or even in this case, righteousness, how we would embody or practice this fruit is different than how God would do it. And again, it's not the same as for taking the fruit of the spirit of righteousness. You know, Yeshua said, "I give you peace, but not as the world gives." So we can see there's a big difference. So I should actually use that as the opening for that little part here. It's not the same as the fruit of the spirit of joy and peace or righteousness. So, like a random act of kindness, for example, taking photo ops. We see politicians do this a lot. Being the praise of people, making a big public display of your good works. These are really the fruit of the world, um, and that's not what we should be doing. These are should be called the fruit of the world, um, which is in stark contrast, which is how we're not supposed to do it. Um, Oops, why did that center everything? Okay, shouldn't have centered everything there. Just move it to the side here. Just want to move this one right in the middle. Okay, I can't do that. But anyway, yeah, so I wanted to say that, yeah, these are the fruit of the world. So I'm going to say Maimonides, maybe move Maimonides towards the end. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to say that, I'm going to say that, those are the fruit of the world. But Maimonides gives us, funnily enough, it's Maimonides of all people who gives us a good example of how we should be. Letter of Maimonides. I believe maybe he lived after Yeshua, but anyway, we're going to fact check that tomorrow. He emphasized the importance of giving that is anonymous, generous, and helping those in need to become self sufficient. We can see this is closer. This is much closer to fruit, spirit of true righteousness, worldly. This is closer to this fruit of the spirit of righteousness. This is closer to the spirit of the fruit of the spirit of righteousness, if I could say that. It makes sense. To the true spirit, to the spiritual. It's closer to the spirit of the fulfillment. If you're doing it spiritually, you're fulfilling the spirit of the law, to the spirit of the law in regards to embodying for the spirit of righteousness. Okay. So conclusion is to be able to do good works, like give hope to someone in a situation like homelessness, really does a great deal of good, not only in God's eyes, but even in our own hearts, does good there because it does affect us. It changes us. It is supposed to change us. Uh, it feels good to feel good about ourselves. Truly, it does. There's nothing wrong about that. I don't think there's nothing wrong with it. I think this was the intention. God programmed us to feel good when we do something genuinely good, um, out of the goodness of our hearts, especially out of the goodness of our hearts. The saying that goes, "We are punished not because of our sins, but by our sins." There's some kind of unwritten law that when someone sins, there's so many consequences. Not just legally, but even our own consciences and in our hearts and minds. Hearts and minds, uh, damage is done. Um, much uh, in hearts and minds, we suffer on the inside. Our scars are things that linger. The inverse is true as well. When you do righteousness, there are so many blessings you experience, not only internally but all around you. I truly feel that this is a result of laying up treasure in heaven. This is something. Maybe I'll say I truly believe. Maybe I'll say I truly believe. Yeah, I truly believe. More sense that this is a result of laying up treasure in heaven. And that's something that is really, you know, and that's a lot. This treasure in heaven. It's like something we just say it like it's something good to say, but I mean, shouldn't we really be doing this? I mean, I feel like full disclosure, I feel like you keep a Sabbath and you stay wherever in your church, you're at home, and I feel like is this how like this is what Yeshua, the Anointed One, Joshua wants me to do? Just sit down, listen to a message or whatever. I'm not saying it's bad, but only do that like forever and ever. Like what did he do? He didn't just sit down and study the Torah like every Shabbat. Like he did. I'm sure he did study it and read it and fellowship. But how many more times was he recorded actually out there helping people versus just you know learning and doing things that were not with people? He was mostly around people, traveling and preaching and getting to know people, healing, doing good for people. So shouldn't we also be doing those same kind of works? Like I'm not saying we're going to be working like getting paid, but I mean to actually be out there making a difference in the community on the Shabbat. Like it's not against the Shabbat. The only thing against the Shabbat is to be working on it and getting paid for it and getting angry on it, speaking word of anger. But to and doing your own pleasure, But if you're doing the pleasure of our Father, which is to love each other, and if somebody's suffering or whatever, you try to help them out there. If they're in a bind, you try to do what you can within the Torah. So I feel like in these treasures in heaven, we talk about it a lot, and we talk about how come we're not seeing good works or not good works. We're not seeing miracles in like in Book of Acts and all that stuff. Well, we're not really doing the ministry of Yeshua. I don't in the West at least. We're not really doing that the way he did it. Maybe some people are. I'm sure there are some people out there, and there are groups who actually are building hospitals, building schools, and they've had a massive impact in wherever they travel to because they are known by their works, not just trying to teach. You actually are making quite an impact on the communities, and people remember you, and they know they can trust you because you're not there just to make a dollar from them. You're actually there to help, and you expect nothing in return. You just do it. So I feel like despite all these things with restrictions on travel and social distancing, I feel like and when those things are more open and less restrictive, then we shouldn't uh, waste any time to not really be in the communities. I'm not saying go to Chicago in the middle of Chirac or something like that. Like I'm not saying be stupid, but help where you can, help where it's safe as well. I mean, I didn't think Yeshua went in the middle of a battlefield, and no, he went to places where he knew there needed help. These were communities. They seemed to be peaceful communities. For the most part, they were people who really had a heart for Yah. They really wanted to learn of him, and they accepted him. A lot of places did accept him, especially not his own hometown, right? So I feel like yeah, we could make such a bigger difference if we actually really, really followed him. I'm not just saying just keep the Torah. I'm not saying that's bad. Of course, that's great. We should be doing that. It's an absolute foundational thing. But if we aren't really helping the community we live in, and even our own faith community, we got to really. I feel like we're, you know what? I feel like we could be doing a lot more. And I understand geography, distance, just how people are very far apart. So yeah, we can't always be everywhere at once. You can do what you can. We can do what we can, within uh, the constraints we have, the limitations such as technology, and we can phone call, email, whatever. Just do what we can. Even just say, I'm praying for you. I mean, that sometimes that's just good enough. But to really, I mean, community outreach. We got to even do community outreach within our community of faith. Like, I feel like we're neglecting our own communities of faith, to be honest, especially since 2020, when things were locked down. People are just kind of just leaving everyone to their own devices. And I don't think that's the right way to go about things, just to, let people fall off the wayside and not really. I'm not saying, I'm not talking about myself, like, no one messaged me. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that um, everyone should be doing more, including myself. Is like a even corrective to me. And I've been convicted in my own conscience that I need to do more of this. And ever since I've had this in my heart, I can see that things are changing now. It's not just something that I feel. I'm actually trying to be the change I want to see. So, whether that's, trying to connect with people and to fellowship, or just to, do something we're actually going to the community, but actually, not just wasting. I feel like we're wasting the Shabbats just on idleness, and just and pleasure and eating. And I'm not saying we shouldn't eat. I mean, there's a balance. We should rest. We should eat. We should have fellowship, but we should also not neglect doing the good works, the works of Christ Jesus, where he actually was out there in the community healing the sick and whatnot. And really, I mean, maybe we won't heal the sick, but we can at least talk to them. Can talk to these people who are downtrodden and marginalized, and ask how they're doing, and what's your situation, and really show them we care. Sometimes that's all you need to do is just show you care and connect with them, and that's more effective than giving them a booklet or whatever. I mean, that can come later when they're going, you're a really good person, and I respect you a lot. And then you tell them about whatever truth you want to teach them. They're going to be way more receptive than if you just open with that, right? And I feel like I do that on my channel too much. Like, I mean, how can I help someone from my channel if I don't really like I have a back and forth with somebody, like a conversation? It's just one way, right? So anyway, that's on my heart there, and I'm going. We can do a lot more than what we've been doing as believers in Messiah. But they put us to shame in the Middle East. They really are doing. They're continuing what was left in the book of Acts, where they left off. They pretty much just picked up that baton, and they're continuing that brave, um, passionate, just push for the gospel fearlessly. Okay. Okay, so anyway, that is something, doing Zedekah out of the joy of my heart, out of graciousness, because I want to do it. I'm not obligated. I don't feel obligated to do it. Wait, what? Doing Zedekah out of the joy of my heart, out of graciousness. It's kind of too wordy, that part. Doing out of the joy of my heart because I want to, not because I'm obligated to. I believe is a result of laying up treasure in heaven. To lay up treasure in heaven through doing tzedakah, my heart, because I want to, and not because I'm obligated to. something I will take with me to the grave and even after this life. Yeah. So what am I saying? Okay. So to lay up treasure in heaven, because I want to do it, is something I'll take with me to the grave. I still don't get it. What am I trying to say here? So many blessings we experience internally, but all around you. I believe is a result of laying up treasure in heaven. So doing Zedaka out of the joy of my heart is something I'll take with me to the grave. It's something that is so pure. What I'm trying to say is that when you do something out of the goodness of your heart, um, because you just actually want to do it, it's something that it really is priceless. Like you understand, you start to understand why it's called treasure in heaven. Because treasure in heaven is not something that can be bought. It really is priceless. Yeah, I think that's. I'll leave it at that. I mean, that's really what it is. Um, it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. It's truly a beautiful thing to for someone to do, for someone to just come to that. It's like they do things because they think God will reward them, but if they just do it, they just do it because they want it, because out of love. I mean, that's the motivator. Not, I mean, they do want it, but they're motivated because of the love that they've been shown by the Creator, and they're just doing it because that's who they are, and that's their motivation is the love, the right love. That is so. It really is precious. It's godly. It's transformative, and it is a powerful fruit. That is a transformative step. Transformative step forward in life to 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 do good from the heart out of for godly. How do I say it? To do good from the heart is godly. To do to to do good works from the heart, expecting nothing in return. Yeah, pretty much you're expecting nothing in return. Expecting nothing in return. Only motivation is a deep love, primary motivation is a deep love. It's a deep love, maybe profound love. It's like such a profound love that is. It's not like a human love where it's like dependent on you do this for me, I'll do that for you. It's not that. It's profound because it is not human. Profound love that surpasses human um, standards, surpasses human understanding, surpasses human nature. Superhuman. It's a superhuman love. Superhuman. So it's superhuman in the way that it is. I mean, God's love for us is because He's our Creator. He's our Father. It's parental. It's a loving relationship. It's out of it's just seeing yourself not as yourself. You see others and you recognize God in them. Um, and you love them because you love God. I think that's what it is. It's a profound love for God, and and you love them because see God in them. It's a lot of God, but basically, um, so to do good works from the heart, expecting nothing in return. Your primary motivation is a profound love, meaning love for God, that meaning a love for God and a love for them, love for them because you see God in them. You recognize God in them. So you recognize God in them. It's godly. I mean, how much it's really is special. It's special. It's precious. It is a very powerful. It is a powerful fruit, tzedakah, righteousness or goodness. I mean, zedek is really the justice part of it. Tzedakah is like the works. So, I mean, is it tzedakah or is it zedek? It's hard for me to really say. It could be both. I mean, zedek is really the justice part of it, righteousness part of it. Tzedakah is really the good works. It's a charity. So I'm going to say zedek. Zedek. So it's a zedek. It's not the zedekah. So I'm going to write this one more time or just go over it. A love for God, a love for them. Primary motivation is a profound love. A love for God as a parent. Does that make sense? A love for God. Love for God. When you love God, it's like, how can you not love your family, right? It's like, it's natural. It's just, you can't really explain that. It's clicks. It's a click. It's a clicking love. It's just, I mean, maybe that's human nature. I don't know, but it's something God put in us. It is it's almost like a unconditional love, but that's God's love for us, isn't it? People say it's unconditional, but our love for Him is more like it's something we learn over time. So it's one love. It's a love that grows through life. It's like a matured love. It's really it's not immature. It's not something that is so. It isn't dependent on circumstances. It's one that is is loyal. It's like a loyal love. Maybe that's one way to put it. It's a loyal love, like loyalty. It's one thing to be loyal. Covenant faithfulness. Maybe that's what it is. It's a covenant faithfulness for God. Familial. It's a familial love. It's also a covenant. It's like you have a familial love and a loyal love. So it's kind of like both. So I'm gonna say a loyal familial love. I can say that because he's our father. Um, Loyal familial love for God and a familial love for them because he recognized your spiritual brotherhood with them, spiritual brotherhood or sisterhood, whatever your familyhood, spiritual brotherhood with them. You recognize the potential for, for God to be revealed in them. I guess that's one way to put it, to be revealed in them. And that special beyond words. I mean, I don't have words for that. That is that is so special. That is treasure. Treasure by every definition. So this is a powerful fruit, goodness. So this spiritual so this fruit of the spirit. So this is the fruit of the spirit. I'm not gonna say it's powerful. I mean, you decide. This was shed light on goodness. Let us remember to this trait, this trait of Father, goodness, righteousness, Zedek, trait of Father, goodness, righteousness, Zedek. Let's remember, trait of Father. Let's remember this trait. Let's remember this trait, this attribute. Let's remember this. How do I say it? Let's remember this. Like, so I hope now, I mean, I'm trying to summarize it all. I don't know, can I really summarize? It's so much to summarize. So I hope you can see the difference now. It's not just a difference just to know it, it's more, understanding what it is. I think I sum it up a little bit. So let's remember this trait, or remember this is not only a trait, this is a trait of our Father, What is a trait he wants us to grow? Yeah. So remember, this trait of our Father is a trait he wants to grow. Let's remember this trait of our Father, an attribute, a fruit, attribute, attribute, fruit, grow. His righteousness, Zedek, Shabbat Shalom. There. Okay, that's pretty good. All right, so I'm gonna do another one tomorrow. I think this is about should be 15 minutes minimum. Yeah, so I feel good about that now. I have to do an all nighter tomorrow. Like I feel pretty good to the point that you know what, it doesn't have to be like super like polished. Like it is cohesive now. It's just the fact of getting the scriptures together there and just seeing if it flows really well. But I feel it does a little bit more. Maybe I don't have to say this part because that's kind of, I could probably say that at the end. I mean, I could probably say this, just explain it and say, you know, originally I was just going to present to you, you know, righteousness, the fruit of goodness, spirit, fruit of the spirit of goodness, righteousness. But I realized it's bigger than that. There's actually the difference between, you know, it's why Jesus came, basically, not just for this fruit, but I mean, he pointed out the difference about this fruit and how he completed it in his arrival and when he really fleshed it out, so to speak. Um, the spiritual reality of this, he fleshed it out for us. A lot of things, but even of this, because righteousness again is good works, and good works relates to keeping the law. So I mean, I could do a little, just do a little ad lib on this, ad lib on backstory. It's going to be presentation on just goodness, righteousness. Turns out it's more about the impact Jesus Christ had on the fuller, more complete understanding that he revealed and he came to the earth. So completed the law. Completed the law. So we knew part. Now we know all. We know all now. We knew part. Now we know all. And so we know all. And thus our responsibility is that much greater. So that could even be the conclusion, to be honest. Yeah, I'll make that the conclusion actually. Because it's focusing the onus on us. The onus is on us. It's not like, oh, you know, good flowery words. No, the onus is on us. We got to take this seriously. And our onus is that much greater. I like the word onus. Okay. All right. There you go. All right. That feels good. Or not. That feels, it does feel good. You know what? It's okay to feel good. So that's all I got. for now, stop the stream.